Hello and welcome back to this very special episode of the CP The Watch Guy podcast here live in San Francisco with a very special guest, Latif. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the invite.
Oh man, thank you so much. I can't believe we're finally here in the West Coast. We've known each other years, maybe well over 3 years over Instagram now. CP Time member for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And we've kind of neglected the West Coast, so I'm so happy that we're finally doing an event tonight. And we get to meet up. So I said, bring some watches. Let's get on camera. Let's talk to the people, man. Right? So I told you to bring some pieces over before we get into probably one of the best well-rounded collections I've seen in a little while. Tell me what got you into watch collecting. What was the thing the bug that started your journey?
You know, I would say my uncle was into watches growing up, and I would see, gold pieces on his wrist, silver pieces on his wrist, and, that was someone that I wanted to emulate, right? One of my favorite uncles. Yeah. And one of the things that I told my mom when I graduated high school was I want to get my first watch. And we looked at the Movados and all these watches, and we didn't have the money at the time. And as I progressed through my career and, I got into the engineering route of the world, I then had a predisposition for being meticulous and loving things that are accurate, right? Because in the space that I work in, right, we're very highly focused on precision with the line of work that we do. So with that, timepieces, mechanical movements, all these different things that I work with on a daily basis, that's what struck my eye. And then there's the aesthetic piece of it as well, right? And they all have their own stories to tell, right? It's funny about each of these watches have their own way of reminding me of the journey of watch collecting, which I love, right? So I can take any piece of this and kind of like bring back a memory of me and my friend going to an AD and talking to someone, or, meeting someone on the street and them end up selling me a watch or something like that. So that's essentially how I got into it.
It's like the family connection,
exactly.
And then also just the meeting of aesthetics and accuracy, because that is watches are mechanical art, and I do love that beautiful blending of worlds. You can fall in love with the science, but at the end of the day, you could just love to look at the watch and then just think of how everything works perfectly together, especially you think of complicated watches like an annual calendar or a perpetual calendar. Sometimes my mind breaks, even even you read the books and they tell you how it's working, still like, how are you making this work? You explain it to me. I still don't believe you. I know there's like there's a CPU in there doing something, right? I don't know. So tell me a little bit. Let's start it off. Pick a piece here. Where do you want to start with this awesome collection?
Ooh, okay. So I'd love to start with the Snoopy.
Let's go with it.
Yes. So the reason why I love this watch, and I think this might be the favorite of my whole collection, is it reminds me of my mom. So my mom brought us up on Charlie Brown and the Peanuts, and she loved Snoopy. So every single Christmas, she would have the little Charlie Brown Christmas tree, the little dainty tree in the house. And this essentially just reminds me of my mom. Every time I wear it, every time I look at it, and it's just a magnificent piece, right? When you look at the back and you run the chronograph, right? You see
the
Snoopy running the chronograph.
Going,
exactly. So I would say this is probably my favorite piece.
Yeah, I love it. As serious as a watch it is, because it's it's a Speedmaster professional. It's done so many amazing things. In space. It's such a fun watch. The involvement with Snoopy, the colors on the dial, seeing Snoopy going around the back, and you put on this bracelet, which I really, really love. Changes the whole feel and look of the watch. And probably I think one of the first one I've held in my hands on the Mega New Style bracelet, and I love it. I really, really love it this way. And like you said, it's something that really brings you back to a certain time. I love the connection with your mom on it, and it's just. I can see why this is a favorite in your collection. But on the bracelet, this is fire. I love this.
Thank you.
All right, so what's next? Let's talk a little bit about this Cartier here.
Ooh, okay. So the Cartier was the second watch that I bought. The first watch that I bought was a Tudor Black Bay, and I ended up giving it to one of my best friends as a wedding present.
Oh, wow.
One of my closest friends, and he loved watches, and I'm like, you know what, this would be great for your collection to kind of start you off. Love Tudor. But when I was living in Kansas City, I wanted a versatile piece that I can wear on a daily basis. And this was before I knew about the Vacherons and the
Yeah.
Pateks and all that type of stuff. And the person who I was working with, she recommended this because it was such a sleek watch. You can wear this every day. You can dress it up. You can dress it down. And that's why I went with the Cartier Santos.
I think it's the epitome of versatility, right? This is take anywhere, do anything, looks good in every situation, especially with the silver dial, and you know it'll always be around there for you. It could take a little bit of a beating as well, right?
Oh,
It
for
can handle
sure.
a little bit of abuse and still be there with you.
Yes.
I think that's a great choice for versatility. So let's go straight up to the 56 Vacheron there when you step it up a little bit.
Ooh, so the Vacheron. The Vacheron boutique recently opened up in San Jose, call it a year ago.
Okay.
And I've always wanted an overseas. I've always wanted to know what the Vacheron house was about. And you know, I was talking with the salesperson. I actually met her at the JLC
Okay.
boutique, and she ended up moving over to this shop. And we had a really close connection. And she said, "Hey, listen, I think this would be a great watch for you to start off the Vacheron collection with." Nothing else was available at the time because you know they don't make many Vacherons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this actually is a watch that I love to dress up and also wear casually.
Yes.
Even though you know it's rose gold on a leather strap, this is a beautiful watch, and with the open case back,
Yes.
magnificent.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful piece, and I think a lot of people should actually look at this a little bit more on the casual side as well, because it does have a little more of a substantial case, so it does lend itself to being worn out and about, right? You don't have to be delicate with it. You don't have to just leave it, you know, for the dress attire. I think you can have fun. Even I've seen these on a few different shops as well, and I think to me it's just a really nice, clean dial, beautiful piece, and a really good job on the movement there
For
as
sure.
well. And I think it's a great piece to have from Vacheron. I'm a big fan of the 56 pieces. This is a beauty.
It is.
So now let's uh let's bump up to the Skydweller black dial
Oof.
you have there.
Yeah, so Skydweller was the most recent purchase.
Okay.
Santa came early,
Yeah.
so got this
As he
one
does sometimes.
in December. And the reason why I wanted the Skydweller was because it was the most complicated that the Rolex has,
Yes.
right? I'm still learning how to wind this and work all of the different
Yeah.
dials and such,
It's
right?
fun. It's fun.
But even though I believe it's a 42 millimeter,
Mm-hmm.
but even though it looks like it's big from you know from first glance, it doesn't sit that big on the wrist, and
Wears
that's
very
what I
well.
love about it. And just looking at all of the different complications when you see this at first glance, it's just so mesmerizing.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you have a lot more information to share about
Yeah,
this
yeah,
watch than I
no,
do.
no. I mean, you said everything about it, right? It's the most complicated watch that Rolex makes, making it my favorite Rolex as well. It's an annual calendar. It's a two time zone piece. All the functions are operated from the bezel and the crown, which when we go back to engineering as well, just making that work, I think is so special.
Like how?
Exactly.
Right?
You know, how do you make it work? How do you know make it so somebody who doesn't know what they're doing doesn't break it? Which I think is something people don't think about, right? It's easy to make something work, and then if you give somebody a class on how to operate it, okay, great. But you could give this to anybody, and they can twist it and do all these things. They won't break it, you know. And I think that's something very, very special that Rolex does, is they'll give you a product that's very complicated, that you know you can operate, you won't be able to break it, and once you actually know what's going on, it's such a special piece, and it looks great at the end of the
Right.
day. So we get back to the aesthetics of it, and like you said, you know, sometimes it can feel a little bit imposing when you're having a pillow like this, but you put it on the wrist, and it wears very,
So
very
flush.
well, especially on the Jubilee bracelet. I really, really enjoy Skydwellers on the Jubilee bracelet. They wear so well. And again, another piece that is super versatile. You could do anything you want with this watch. And I think definitely a great. Wait, is this the first Rolex?
Oh no,
The,
that's the third, I
the
believe.
third, yeah, nice,
Yeah.
a good third Rolex, a very good a third Rolex. I think everybody should look to jump into a Skydweller if you enjoy having a complicated piece. It's just such a good piece, and I really really love the black dials. Like I was saying earlier, so versatile, so good. And last but certainly not least, tell me about the 5196R.
Ooh, this actually is a cool story. So the Calatrava, I actually wasn't looking for this one.
Okay.
I initially was looking at a Longa, and I wanted to get one of their watches. And at the time, my buddy found a dealer in New Zealand who had this Calatrava, and it pretty much, I think it was a 2020, brand new, box and papers, everything. And he said, this would be the most understated piece that you have in your collection and probably the best one in your collection from a collector's eye. And I said, I have to go with it. You know, so it's so slim, so sleek. I don't wear this one much. This one stays in the case a fair amount, right? But I promised my friend, I said, you know, since you told me to get it, the first time I wear it will be at your wedding.
Yeah. Oh man,
And that's going to be
amazing.
in July.
Oh man, I love that. Oh man, that is a great story. And you know, he's kind of correct, right? Because from many standpoints, collectability wise, the 5196R just a great Calatrava in the Patek Philippe family. So slim. Something about this dial just has a character, right? That is just very Patek, just very minimalistic, but still just has a a depth to it. One of my favorite pieces, manual wind, real clean, classic. Not too much frills on it, but still speaks volumes. And a watch that not a lot of people think about. You know, a lot of people don't think about, but when you see it, it still just gives me a lot of goosebumps. A good friend, a good friend who has a good eye for sure.
Right. He
That's
actually
awesome.
was the one that got me into watch collecting too.
Oh, awesome! There you go.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago, and here we are.
Yeah, right. Hey, friends seen us, expensive friends.
Yes. Yes,
Oh
sir.
man. So before we get out of here, what would you suggest to a new friend who came up to you and said, "Hey, Latif, I see your great collection. I want to get into it. You know, what are some tips and tricks you tell me about watch collecting today?"
I would say, first off, take your time, right? I feel like there are a lot of
Patience.
different brands out there. I know you want to possibly start with the Rolex, right? But there are so many other brands to start with and for you to start your journey. I have friends that have started with Sins, right? I
Yeah.
have friends that have started with Tudors, so many different watches, and they all have their own different versatility. Um, I would say don't go with the hype. I would say go with what you can afford at first and what you like, and then build your collection off of that. For me personally, I love Tudor. That's where I started. That's home for me. I have a Tudor on my wrist right now. So any friend, personal friend that I have, I always recommend Tudor to start. You know, in the Rolex family, more affordable, right? Great value, and then I would say then branch out. You know, I think the pieces that I'm looking at right now are more so in the Germany family,
Okay.
right? And some in Japan, right? So it's crazy how our tastes just change, and then we
Yes.
want to just explore all over the world and not just stay Swiss made.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely think you have to be open, and great. I love the tips that you said there. But you definitely have to be open for your taste to evolve, right? Would you say you have a Grail watch? Is there one crown that you'd say, you know, if there was no budget, what would be the thing that you would grab?
Ooh, that's a good
I know it's
question.
a tough one.
I would say so. That was one of my grails right there.
Yeah, it's a Grail achieved.
The Snoopy. I would say possibly FP Journe.
Nice.
I would say one of those in that collection, and also probably a Mosier. I don't
Okay.
have any of those yet. I
Nice.
have to move some things around,
Yeah.
but I'd say adding Mosier would be a grail. You know, I think they are so understated,
Yes.
and they make brilliant pieces.
Yes, I agree. Nice. Oh man. Latif, again, thank you so much for
It's a
tuning in,
pleasure. Thank you.
for coming in,
Yes,
and
sir.
thank you guys for tuning in.